Welcome to the Portal Library. Step through and let the magic begin. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you'd love more stories or have a request. New videos uploaded every Friday.
The Magic That Knew My Name. Episode 4. Cupiditas. The Sage's Temptation.
Morning broke in pale gold as Soren stood beside the merchant caravan waiting at the fort's east gate. Dew clung to the wheel rims, turning each spoke into a glittering ring. The sky above the mountains had that faint lavender haze that meant the world was waking gently, like a slow inhale. From a distance, he looked like someone about to step through a doorway no one else could see.
I felt my heartbeat settle somewhere behind my ribs, steady, but different. Not the thudding restlessness of fear, something quieter, expectancy maybe.
The merchants loaded crates sealed with wax sigils, herbs, manuscripts, enchanted inks, mineral dyes. A few wore compact goggles for reading aura fluctuations on the road. Already, Soren could tell this wasn't a traveling company built for simple trade. Everything about them hinted toward a world shaped around knowledge, the kind that needed protecting as fiercely as any border. "Circle of knowledge is 3 days," she said, her warm-lined face glowing like morning bread. "Flatlands after the mountain pass. No beasts this way. We're close enough to the barrier lines that corruption thins. You'll like it there," she added gently. "They say even the wind is curious." Soren nodded, shoulders tightening the way they did whenever someone spoke as if they already knew his future.
I hope I like it. I hope I like whoever I become there.
He climbed into the back of the lead wagon. Inside, everything smelled of parchment, citrus oil, and that faint metallic sharpness that always came before magic was used. As the caravan began to move, Soren watched the fort shrink behind him. Stone walls, the quiet discipline of the guard grounds, and somewhere in that mix of order and dusklight, Lucius. A flicker of memory. Lucius's steady voice, his silver eyes softening whenever he spoke about community, the way he encouraged Soren not to fear his own potential.
You changed something in me. Or maybe you uncovered something I'd buried under all that noise I called certainty.
The forest road opened wide ahead of him. Pines thinned, the light grew stronger. Soon, instead of moss and mountain shade, he saw rolling grasslands, gentle slopes, patches of wildflowers that glowed faintly with residual aura fields. A young merchant with a bead strand tied to his braid nudged him lightly. "First time traveling to a knowledge circle?"
First time traveling anywhere that isn't a forest or a village.
"Then you're in for a shock," he grinned. "We say the circle of knowledge isn't built by hands, it's grown. Libraries that hum, lanterns that respond to questions, water that remembers the shape of the cup that held it." It sounded unbelievable, too whimsical even for this world. But the merchant wasn't joking. And strangely, Soren didn't doubt it.
The magic here moves differently. Not violent, not corrupt, not defensive. Curiosity itself seems alive.
He shifted, pulling his small pack close. Inside were a few herbs from Amara, a charm from Gerald, and the folded recommendation letter Lucius had sealed with his own resonant signature. Soren traced the edge of the envelope.
If I ever go back home, I want to bring something better than fear with me. Something more honest.
The road bent into a gentle curve. The plain stretched outward until the horizon felt enormous. No tension, no lurking shadows. Just wind shaping grass in slow, spiraling waves, like language he didn't yet know how to read. He remembered how everything here had tasted so vibrant. The air, the fruit, the bread. He hadn't used a single pinch of the spices he carried from home. So much had changed in him since he'd left Earth, but that detail grounded him. Cooking, food, flavor, the quiet act of care that had always been denied to him as something not manly enough.
Maybe here, I get to decide what strength looks like.
The caravan crested a low ridge. Far ahead, against the blush blue horizon, towers of shimmering glasslight rose from the plains, curved like quills, branching like crystalline trees. "There," he said softly, "the circle of knowledge." Soren stared, breath caught in his chest. Knowledge risen into architecture. Curiosity turned into skyline. A city built on learning, healing, innovation, yet wrapped in soft pastels, runes, gardens, and gentle humming currents of magic. And somewhere inside it, waiting with a gleam in their eyes and a mind full of time-bending mysteries, was Ares.
Whatever happens next, I want to be awake for all of it.
And the caravan rolled forward. Before Soren ever saw the shimmering towers of the Circle of Knowledge, before the caravan crested the ridge that would change his life, Ares was already awake. They always woke before dawn. Not out of discipline that implied a schedule forced upon them. Ares woke early because their mind refused to sleep any longer once curiosity began to whisper. The Circle of Knowledge was quiet at this hour, held in that breath between night and morning, where even magic seemed to stretch, unhurried and half-dreaming. The glass-light towers reflected the faintest peach glow from the horizon, glittering like they'd been dipped in possibility. Ares stood barefoot on the balcony of their research chamber, curls tangled from sleep, robe slipping off one shoulder, lit only by the soft hum of suspended rune lanterns. There it is, they thought, that flicker on the horizon, the world deciding to start again. They inhaled deeply. The morning smelled like ink, citrus tea, and the faint iron-sweet scent of spell residue from yesterday's experiments. The balcony railing thrummed under their palm. It always did when they were excited. And Ares was excited every morning. They headed back inside, robes swaying around them like drifting parchment. Their research hall was a beautiful disaster. Scrolls half unrolled, diagrams pinned with crystals, dozens of enchanted quills scribbling on their own. A half-eaten bowl of fruit sat on a stack of manuscripts forgotten in the middle of last night's breakthrough about temporal resonance. Temporal collapse is possible, they remembered, heart quickening. Not to rewrite time, but to fold it. To open doors between what was, what is, and what could be. Most scholars took decades to even form those sentences. Ares had formed them before breakfast. This was their curse as much as their gift. They lifted their hand, and threads of pearly magic spiraled from their fingertips, tightening the quill's flight paths, nudging the diagrams into order. Magic obeyed them the way notes obey a composer. Sometimes they worried that was the problem. Intellect had always come easily, too easily. People praised them, then envied them, admired them, then feared them, included them, then quietly stepped away. Ares did not blame anyone. They understood. Genius was lonely, but not tragic. Loneliness was simply a fact, a puzzle piece that didn't match any surrounding shapes. That was why they volunteered at the orphanage twice a week, not because of some saintly instinct, but because being around children reminded them that life was not only made of possibilities, but of warmth, of unstructured joy, of laughing with your whole chest because someone told a bad joke in a good way. Ares would kneel beside a child learning to write runes and feel something unclench inside themselves. This, they would think, this matters too. Still, after all these years, there was a quiet ache in them. The ache of leaving home young, the ache of severed family ties, the ache of brilliance that outpaced companionship, and the ache, the sharp, newest one, of wanting to believe that Lucius's letter meant something more than professional courtesy. When the resonance courier dropped off Lucius's sealed recommendation last night, Ares held it for so long that the ink sigils warmed against their skin. Lucius, the only person who had ever made them feel seen without needing to be impressed. Lucius, who had written, "Ares, I'm sending you someone extraordinary. Someone who reminds me of you before the world crowned you with expectations you didn't ask for. Take care of him and let him challenge you. He will." Ares had sat down on the floor after reading that and laughed into their hands. When was the last time Lucius used sentimental prose? When was the last time anyone said Ares needed someone? Ares crossed the chamber to their mirror. Not a normal mirror, but an enchanted one that revealed aura threads. Their reflection shimmered. Round cheeks dusted with freckle motes of magic. Soft jawline, neither masculine nor feminine. Eyes bright with sleepless excitement. A body that settled comfortably into its small, chubby frame. Hair a wild tumble of midnight curls streaked with luminous threads. An aura shifting like folded time, silver, lavender, ink blue. People often assumed scholars looked frail or composed or regal. Ares scoffed. They grinned at the mirror. "This is going to be a good day," they murmured to themselves, brushing ink off their cheek with the back of their hand. Then, all at once, the crystalline panels of their tower brightened, a flare of distant resonance that pricked every inch of their skin. A caravan, a resonance signature carried within it, sharp and steady and full of quiet, expanding potential. Lucius's letter had warned them, but no warning could have prepared Ares for the feeling. Soren. They whispered the name aloud. It tasted like possibility. Ares pressed a hand to their chest, startled by the way their pulse flared. Why was time bending around one name? Why did the very air respond? They didn't know yet, but the not knowing thrilled them. Knowledge was a city. Discovery was a door. Soren felt like both. Ares laughed again, breathless, almost giddy. "Lucius, you meddling bastard," they said fondly. "You've sent me someone who'll turn my research and possibly my life inside out." With a sweep of their hand, their robe tightened, their curls settled into organized chaos, and dozens of floating scrolls snapped shut and stacked themselves neatly. Ares lifted her chin. Let the world wake. Let the caravan arrive. Let the future rearrange itself. They were ready. And somewhere out on the plains, Soren was drawing closer.
The mountains behind us softened into a violet silhouette as the caravan rolled toward the plains. I held on to the wooden rail of the wagon, letting the wind tug at my hair, carrying scents of wildflowers and faint mineral magic. The older merchant woman, the one with the warm voice and soft, knowing eyes, sat beside me now, reins loose in her hands as the horses trotted steadily forward. Her posture had that relaxed confidence of someone who'd survived enough storms to trust the quiet between them. She glanced at me, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth.
"You're quiet. Most people talk more than they breathe on their first trip to the circle of knowledge."
I huffed a quiet laugh. I guess I don't know what to expect.
That's the best way to arrive. Expectation just blinds people to what's actually in front of them.
I nodded and exhaled. Her words loosened something inside me, not completely, but enough to breathe easier. We rode in silence for a while, wheels crunching over the packed road. The last traces of the mountain forest faded behind us, pines giving way to rolling green, dotted with clusters of crystalline wildflowers pulsing faintly with inner light. "Thank you," I finally said, "for letting me travel with you, and for explaining things."
You've got gratitude stitched into your voice. That's rare.
Heat rushed to my face. I looked toward the shimmering horizon. She noticed, chuckling softly.
You'll fit in fine.
"What makes you say that?"
Well, in the circle of knowledge, people are, how do we put this politely, curious to a fault. They poke into everything. They research love the way others research astronomy. They chart emotional resonance patterns for fun. Most circles think they're odd.
And they're not? Odd, I mean.
Oh, they're absolutely odd. Just never in the ways people expect.
The caravan descended into a shallow valley. A low hum drifted on the wind, the distant tremble of magical fields. The sound nestled into my bones like soft static. She gestured with her chin at the glowing plains ahead.
The circle of knowledge isn't any less community-centered than the others. People mistake their enthusiasm for isolation. But everyone contributes. Children learn to read runes before letters. Farmers study soil aura. Bakers hum resonance into their dough.
My breath hitched. Amara's gentle humming resurfaced in my memory. The glow in her bread, the soft magic woven into her hands. I smiled without meaning to.
Ah, you've met someone from a practical magic circle then.
A baker, Amara.
Practical mages like her are treasures. Their magic anchors communities. We have practical researchers too. Those who study resonance for farming, crafting, cooking. They're the backbone of our city.
Is there a hierarchy?
Hierarchy? You're still thinking in Earth terms.
I blinked. You know about...
Lucius mentioned it once, enough to explain why you look at everything like you're translating it from another language.
I didn't know whether to laugh or apologize, so I did neither. She softened a little.
We don't do hierarchy. We do alignment. Roles shift based on your magic type, your emotional attunement, and your contributions to the circle. Some are inscription mages, writing protective manuscripts, recording spells, keeping runic archives.
How do you store records? Paper?
Oh no, paper decays. We use stone tablets infused with memory runes, recording crystals for delicate work. Everything biodegradable. Knowledge shouldn't harm the land.
I let that settle. A world where knowledge didn't consume the world around it. A world where magic and ecology weren't enemies. And others?
Archival mages. They observe magical phenomenon, interview circles, document resonance. Historians of magic.
And the advanced ones?
The sages.
The word thrummed through the air like a bell. She lowered her voice.
There are very few. Sages weave theory, emotion, and time. Guides more than leaders. Sometimes prophets, though they deny it. And Ares, well, Ares is the youngest sage in recorded memory, the sage of time.
My stomach tightened. Not fear, but something shimmering, anticipation. Ares can see the future?
Not exactly. They sense the shape of possibility. They bend time to understand it, not alter it.
So they're powerful?
Powerful isn't the right word. They're attuned, which is rarer.
I looked down at my hands. Do you know how attunement starts?
Of course. It starts with feeling too much, wanting to understand everything, being overwhelmed by your own empathy, being afraid of your own softness.
I swallowed hard. She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. The plains shifted subtly. The grass hummed with each breeze. Wildflowers bent toward us, greeting us. The sky grew wider, lighter, as if curiosity shaped the weather. Ahead, the towers of glasslight rose fully into view, shimmering like dawn captured in crystal. I exhaled slowly. And somewhere in that city, someone is waiting for me. Someone I haven't met yet, but who already feels important. The caravan turned onto the main road, pale stone glowing faintly like moonlight.
Welcome to the place where questions are alive.
My heart lifted into my throat. The towers shimmered, the plains hummed, time curved softly around me. And I stepped forward. The registrar hall of the Scholarium wasn't a hall at all. It felt like stepping into a memory someone else had already begun writing. Light streamed downward in long, liquid ribbons from floating banners, pages of history suspended mid-air, shifting through runic paragraphs as if the walls themselves were reading. Dozens of quills drifted like tiny silver birds, recording registrations into glowing sigil books. A soft hum filled the air, like wind chimes built from knowledge. I clutched Lucius's sealed letter a little tighter. A clerk's eyes widened the instant I approached. They didn't ask my name. They didn't ask my purpose. They simply straightened sharply, then bowed.
Ah, you must be him. Please wait right here. The sage will want to meet you personally.
The sage? Before I could question it, the air warped, just slightly, like time itself exhaled. And then they appeared. A blur of robes, starlit eyes, and soft round cheeks flushed from excitement rather than exertion.
Hi! Oh, stars. Sorry, too loud. Hi!
They were shorter than I expected for someone with a title like sage. Average height, a little chubby, warm, round features softened by an almost childlike brightness. And their eyes glimmered the way dew beads catch rainbow light at dawn. Before I could even greet them, their hands were on my shoulders.
You're Soren, right? The Soren from another world? The one who Lucius sent? Do you have his letter? Can I see it? No, wait, I kinda already saw this timeline probability, so I know what it says. Don't give it yet. Actually, yes, give it. Oh, this is wonderful.
Hello? Time didn't stop. It stuttered, like a skipped heartbeat. Their presence wrapped around me like warm sunlight, too bright, too earnest, too much, and somehow exactly what my chest had been aching for without knowing it. They took the letter reverently, pressing a hand over it, as though feeling Lucius's resonance through the envelope.
He never writes letters, ever. I've known him since we were children, and he barely writes grocery lists. Do you understand what this means?
No?
It means you're special, very special, or you've given him a reason to believe again. Either way, wow, this is so exciting. Their enthusiasm was like standing too close to a fireplace, hot, bright, impossible to ignore. My heart thudded uncomfortably fast. Not fear, not confusion, something blooming. They circled me in 3 steps, literally circling, like they were mapping my aura by orbit. What world are you from? What was your sky like? What kind of resonance did you feel there? Did your seasons hum? Did your stars pulse? Is your magic emotional or elemental or conditional? What's your favorite fruit?
Earth? Blue sky? Bananas?
They gasped, as if I'd said something profound. Excellent answers. Come, you have to see the Scholarium immediately. We're starting the tour. This way. Hurry.
And then they grabbed my hand. My entire chest went molten. Ares practically dragged me through double doors carved with shimmering runes that rearranged themselves to greet us. They guided me past floating banners displaying shifting memories, visual histories recorded through resonance. One banner showed a past mage sealing a corrupted forest. Another depicted a healer restoring a dying grove. Students bustled around us, glancing at Ares with open adoration. "Sage Ares," a student said. "Good morning." "Good morning. Keep your aura hydrated. Yes, you too. Drink water." They were beloved, radiant, unaware of it, and I couldn't take my eyes off them. Ares raced ahead. I hurried after. Dozens of shelves floated in circles, books orbiting like planets. Some whispered summaries of themselves when approached. "Here's the living archive. These books don't store text, they store essence."
If a mage describes something out loud while touching a page, the book remembers it forever. There's also a book that cries if someone lies near it, but it's overly dramatic. Ignore that one. This is incredible. I watched them move, hands animated, cheeks flushed, eyes sparkling. Their joy was contagious, and something in me reached for it. Bathed in soft blue luminescence, mages in pale robes moved calmly between cots where patients rested under gentle resonance fields. Crystalline instruments hovered beside beds, adjusting healing frequencies. Healers here study emotional fractures. Magic reacts to feeling, pain, fear, grief. If resonance destabilizes, the body follows. We tried to mend both. Can emotional magic heal physical wounds too? Sometimes. Sometimes the body needs logic. Sometimes the heart. Sometimes both. Their eyes flicked to mine, and for one breath, we simply looked. Too long. Too close. My pulse leapt. Ares blinked away first, flustered. We then made our way to the 4th floor. The moment the doors opened, air shimmered. Suspended crystals rotated in complex patterns, threads of light connecting them like constellations. These are chronocrystals, fossilized pockets of resonance from moments of high emotional intensity. Very rare, very delicate, very fun. They tapped one lightly with a fingertip. Time rippled, subtly, like a breath held, then released. We don't change time, we listen to it. Time is a river. Every feeling leaves a current. We study those currents. They leaned close, examining my aura with gentle intensity. Yours moves differently, like you've lived 2 timelines that ended in the same breath. Is that bad? No, not bad, just rare and beautiful. And my heart nearly gave out. We made our way to the 5th floor. Inside the dome, constellations traced themselves across the ceiling in glowing strokes. Ares pointed upward. We map possibility. Fate isn't fixed. It's a collection of resonances. When 2 people meet, sometimes their auras create new paths. They turned to me. Yours just expanded. A lot. My breath caught. Their cheeks darkened. They looked away quickly, pretending to study a telescope that clearly wasn't even turned on. We then stepped outside into a courtyard bathed in afternoon glow. At its center rose a colossal tree, its trunk made of pale stone, its leaves like sheets of glowing parchment, shifting with whispered knowledge. The chrono tree, knowledge made manifest. It grows a new leaf for every breakthrough. Sometimes it blooms. Sometimes it cries. A crowd passing through the courtyard waved at Ares. Everyone knew them. Everyone adored them. But they only looked at me. And I stared too long. Way too long. My heart pushed up into my throat. Ares, would you like to explore the city sometime? Just us? Their eyes widened. Time stuttered again. And then they lit up like dawn breaking. I was hoping you'd ask. Something inside me unfurled, soft, terrified, exhilarated. And for the first time since I'd left Earth, I wanted to belong somewhere. Here, with them.
The circle of knowledge was unlike anything I'd seen. Not just beautiful, alive. Every street felt as though it had learned something, remembered something, and wanted to share it with us. Ares walked beside me, practically bouncing on their heels, curls catching the sunlight, a faint shimmer of time magic clinging to their sleeves like dust from a star. I kept staring at them. I kept trying not to stare harder. The city opened around us like the first page of a book I'd always meant to read but never had the courage to open. We entered a crowded lane, bursting with color. Stalls lined the pathway, each glowing with its own kind of magic. Floating lantern fruit bobbed gently above one table. Another merchant sold inks that shifted color according to the writer's mood. A group of children surrounded a storyteller whose words painted visible illusions in the air, dragons curling above their heads like threads of smoke. Ares tugged my sleeve.
Look at this one. These charms hum when you're stressed. Perfect for overthinkers. I use 3 a day.
Only 3? They laughed, soft, melodious, unrestrained. We climbed up a gentle, spiraling staircase to a rooftop terrace. Rows of plants shimmered in morning light. Above them, a fine drizzle fell, but each droplet was inscribed with tiny runes, glowing faintly as it landed.
Rune-drizzled rain. It nourishes plants with emotional stability, keeps them from responding too strongly to shifts in resonance. We grew up with this.
I watched a droplet land on a petal. It pulsed with warm, golden light, then dissolved into the leaf. Magic. Natural magic. So gentle it made my throat tighten. I breathed in the air, warm, herb-sweet, full of possibility. Further ahead, 3 astrologers sat under a canopy of shifting constellations, runes forming star maps above their heads.
They don't read fate. They read emotional constellations, patterns of feeling reflected in resonance fields, helps people understand themselves better.
Do they ever get it wrong?
Every day. But wisdom isn't about being correct, it's about paying attention.
Their eyes flicked toward me when they said it. My chest tightened. A pair of fox-like creatures pranced across the path, tails glowing softly, eyes bright. Not corrupted, not twisted, just wild.
The wards keep corruption out. Everything inside stays whole, safe.
I glanced at their profile. Soft cheeks, thoughtful gaze. Part of me wanted to stay here forever. We reached a quiet canal lined with smooth, pale stone. Water flowed gently through it, not clear, but luminous, like liquid memory. The surface flickered with faint silhouettes, echoes of moments past. Not intrusive, just small scenes of laughter, learning, comfort, emotions held safely, allowed to drift away naturally. Ares sat at the water's edge and patted the space beside them. I sat, relaxing, and felt content.
We believe knowledge is a kind of care. To learn someone's story is to hold them gently. To study the world is to love it better.
Their voice lowered, warm as dusk.
You don't have to prove anything to belong here.
My breath hitched. And suddenly, I wasn't looking at the canal anymore. I was looking inward. Back home, I always felt watched, judged. I never knew how much of myself I was allowed to show. Ares didn't fill the silence. They didn't offer platitudes. They just listened. Fully. Completely. As if my voice mattered. I hid parts of myself just to be accepted. Even in relationships. Even with people I cared about. I thought if I didn't fit the picture they expected, I'd lose everything. My voice cracked. I swallowed tightly. Ares's hand rose, slow, intentional, and cupped my cheek. Warm, soft, reverent. You've carried yourself alone for so long. Something in me broke, quietly, but fully. My vision blurred. My breath trembled. No one had ever touched me like that. Not with pity, not with desire alone, but with understanding. I leaned into their palm without thinking. Ares inhaled, sharp, surprised, and deeply moved. Their thumb brushed beneath my eye. You don't have to hide with me, not any part of you. My heart hurt from how fast it beat. The world softened around us. The glowing canal, the distant hum of magical wards, the warm air carrying faint citrus-sweet scents. Ares leaned closer, slow, hesitant, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. Our foreheads touched first. Then our noses brushed. Then we kissed. Soft at first, searching, then deeper, need blooming like spring after drought. Their hands slid to my jaw, mine tangled in their sleeves. Time wavered, actually wavered, like the universe pause button for us. We kissed until I forgot how to breathe, until they were breathless too, until everything narrowed to warmth, lips, closeness, wanting. When we finally broke apart, both of us exhaled shakily. Ares rested their forehead against mine.
Soren,
Ares.
this connection wasn't imagined. It wasn't fantasy. It wasn't confusion. It was real, undeniably real, and I didn't want it to stop.
The Scalarium's research wing hummed like a heartbeat, soft, steady, full of quiet possibility. I walked beside Ares through tall archways of glass stone, where drifting light crystals drifted like slow snowfall. Scholars murmured at high desks. Time crystals rotated lazily along ceiling rails. The whole place felt like a mind moving in real time. Ares kept close to me, close enough that our arms brushed with each step. At first, I flinched from the attention, the greetings, the curious glances, the way scholars nodded knowingly at Ares and then at me. But Ares never let go of my hand. They squeezed it once, reassuring, grounding, and something inside me unwound. We stopped before a large circular chamber where runes spiraled along the floor.
This is what we're working on now. Temporal resonance mapping. It's how we study the lost ones without risking more people.
They stepped into the circle and motioned for me to follow. Inside, the runes brightened, soft rose gold, the color of dawn behind a veil. A suspended sphere hovered in the center, a memory projection of a corrupted deer spirit. Not monstrous, just fractured, like grief made visible.
The lost ones don't become corrupted because they're weak. They become corrupted because time breaks around them. Their memories snarl. Their past collapses inward. We're trying to see whether we can stabilize those fractures long enough to purify them. Can time really break? Everything breaks. But time breaks quietly.
Their eyes glinted, soft, melancholic. They reached toward the projection. Runes followed the motion of their hand like petals drawn to sunlight.
If we understand how a corrupted mind warps time around itself, we can learn to stitch it back together, maybe even save them before the corruption turns permanent.
Their voice trembled, not with fear, but conviction. And for the first time I saw the weight they carried, the impossible hope trembling under every word. I stepped closer until our shoulders touched. You're not responsible for saving everyone.
Ares's breath hitched. Their eyes softened, like I had touched something delicate inside them.
Sometimes I think I'm only doing all of this to make up for leaving my old circle. I wasn't gentle with them. I wasn't kind, not the way I should have been. I buried myself in research so I wouldn't feel guilty. Trying to help isn't guilt. Trying to help is care. There's no wrong reason to do good.
Ares blinked rapidly, a faint shimmer building around their lashes.
Later, we walked together to the orphanage at the southern end of the city, a tall, sunlit building covered in ivy, laughter drifting from the windows. Children ran to Ares the moment we entered. They tugged at their sleeves, asking questions about stars, plants, spells, math, anything they'd wondered since yesterday. Ares answered every single one with patience and delight. I watched them, stunned. This brilliant, chaotic sage became soft clay in small hands. One girl tugged my hand, offering a carved stone tablet.
They want you to read with them. Trust me, it's impossible to refuse.
I sat with the kids beneath a hanging lantern that smelled faintly of juniper. We read runic fables. They made fun of my pronunciation, fair. They asked about Earth. One boy clung to my arm like a vine. Ares watched me the whole time, heart in their eyes, something tender blooming in their expression. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't embarrassed by who I was in public. I didn't hide. I didn't shrink. I didn't perform. I just was. Ares reached for my hand as the children drifted away, and we left together, fingers intertwined. Their study was different now, neater, warmer. Where once stacks of tablets lay scattered on the floor, now they lined shelves, organized, labeled. My handwriting appeared on several, carved into faint runes. Ares kept the ones I'd written. Candles glowed in clusters, making the room smell like honey and smoke. Ares held my hand gently as we entered, like guiding someone into a sacred place. Time didn't feel real here. Or maybe it felt too real. Like it had slowed down to let us breathe inside it. Ares turned, cupped my face with both hands, their forehead pressing lightly to mine. Every time I look at you, I feel possibility rearrange itself. I didn't know what that meant, but my body understood. I reached for them, slowly, like a question. They answered by leaning closer. Our lips touched, soft at first, then with growing certainty. Their hands slid to my shoulders, mine to their waist. The kiss deepened until the world blurred. The time crystals in the room flickered, like even they had paused. We moved with hesitation, then without it. Ares guided us to the small sofa by the window. Moonlight washed over us, pale and gentle. Candles flickered, shadows swayed. Their breath warmed my cheek. My fingers traced the curve of their jaw, the softness of their skin. They shivered, not in fear, but in recognition. We rested against each other, chest to chest. Their heartbeat pressed to mine, steadying. Our breaths intertwined, slow, warm, tender. Hands explored, but only gently. Skin touched skin, but only where it felt safe. Nothing hurried, nothing forced. Just warmth, just closeness, just the miracle of being held. Ares buried their face against my neck, lips brushing my skin like the softest question. Their voice trembled against me. "Stay with me tonight," I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. I pressed a kiss to their shoulder. They sighed, a sound like relief, like something long-waited finally arriving. We curled together beneath a blanket embroidered with constellations. Their left fingers traced patterns along my spine. Mine followed the ridges on the back on his right hand, gentle, reverent. Every place our hands wandered felt like a quiet lightning strike. Not sharp, not painful, but a slow blooming heat that unfurled all the way into my spine. A shudder moved through me, not from fear, but from finally being touched in a way that didn't ask me to hide. Ares's fingers traced my shoulders, my arms, the dip of my waist, each touch careful, deliberate, as if they were memorizing me in a language older than words. I answered in kind. We moved slowly, exploring without urgency, finding the places that made breath catch, the places that made warmth rise, the places that felt like truth. The world narrowed to skin and breath and the soft sounds we made, quiet, startled sighs, gentle laughter, the tiny breaks in breathing when closeness became overwhelming in the best way. We didn't worry about how we looked, or whether we deserved this, or which version of ourselves we were supposed to be. We just kept reaching for each other, warmth seeking warmth, soul recognizing soul. Time slipped strangely around us. Maybe minutes passed, maybe hours, I couldn't tell. It felt like being suspended in a moment that refused to end, a pocket of the world where only we existed, where desire didn't rush but deepened, slow as tide water, sure as breath. Nothing else mattered. Not tomorrow, not fear, not expectation, just us. Two people breathing in a room made of light and time. We drifted to sleep, tangled together, our hands still intertwined. And as I closed my eyes, I thought, maybe time didn't stop. Maybe this is just how it feels when you finally stop running. Dawn touched the scalarium differently than anywhere else I'd ever seen. It didn't rise so much as arrive, soft, layered, almost thoughtful, as if the sun itself paused at the horizon to read the morning before deciding how bright to be. And every morning, without fail, they were already awake before the first light hit the stone pathways. Ares sat in meditation beside the window, cross-legged, palms open, tiny motes of suspended time curling and uncurling above their fingertips, breathing slow, emotions neatly ordered, like pages placed back inside the right book. I always thought early risers woke up because they liked mornings. Ares wasn't like that. They woke early because they had to, because their magic hummed too loudly unless they shaped it, quieted it. Like tuning an instrument only they could hear. For a sage of time, clarity wasn't optional, it was survival. The difference between hearing the future cleanly or losing it in the noise of 100 possible outcomes. And right next to their steady ritual, I found a rhythm of my own. I usually rose later than they did, not out of laziness, but out of something I hadn't known in years. Rest. My body feels mine again, not rushed, not braced for anything, just awake. Most mornings, when I opened my eyes, they were already watching me. Not in the sharp, analyzing way scholars study mysteries, but in the soft, surprised way someone admires something they're still not convinced they're allowed to keep. And I'd fallen into a new routine too, cooking. The first few times I made breakfast, they nearly levitated out of their chair with joy. I discovered local herbs, glowing roots that melted like honey in the pan, grains that crackled when they hit oil. And every single discovery sent them into delighted chaos.
Oh, this taste. Soren, what did you do? Is this resonance, or is this just your magic, your hands? Do it again. Wait, no, I need to write this down.
It's literally just seasoning. Slowly, without either of us naming it, we slipped into unintentional cohabitation. At first, I slept in the guest wing. Then I started staying in their study after long nights of talking. Then I was there almost every evening. And then one morning, they looked up from meditation to see me cooking breakfast, barefoot, hair rumpled, humming under my breath. And they said, "You live here now, do I?"
The room knows you.
That's all the definition you need. And it was true. The runic lamps brightened a touch when I walked in. The window lattice unfurled when I approached. Even the time crystals near their desk warmed when I was close, reacting not to magic, but to presence. I had never been wanted like this. Not quietly, not naturally, not in a way that felt like breathing. We built a life in soft increments. Mornings of tea and research notes, afternoons tutoring children at the orphanage, our shoulders brushing. Evenings wandering luminous city gardens. Nights unraveling time, corruption, earth, fear, possibility. Every piece of that routine was gentle, but it carried weight, the weight of belonging. Ares brought structure to my days. I brought warmth to theirs. We steadied each other in ways neither of us expected, but both of us felt deeply. If this is what home feels like, then I've never had it before. But I know I want it. Started out restless, but claimed down towards the end. Even in the restful rhythm we'd built together, even with mornings warm and slow, and nights wrapped in candlelit quiet, something kept tugging at me. It didn't disturb my peace, not exactly. It nudged at the edge of it, soft as a finger tracing the rim of a cup. Sometimes I'd wake from sleep that felt too deep, too heavy, like I'd been pulled back from someplace I hadn't meant to go. Other times, I'd be washing dishes, or copying runes, or listening to Ares ramble about paradox frameworks, and suddenly I'd feel hollow, like a page missing from a book. I tried to ignore it. I folded myself deeper into the warmth Ares gave me. I let routine wrap around me like a blanket. I smiled through the unease. It wasn't until one quiet afternoon, the two of us sitting cross-legged on the floor of Ares's study, scrolls and crystals scattered around us, that the truth finally cracked open.
"Your aura has been shifting," they said gently, their eyes soft but steady. "Not dangerously, but noticeably."
Shifting how? They hesitated, rare for them, and revealing. "You're someone displaced by time, Soren. Your timeline isn't clean. It folds, it loops, it skips. And when time is convoluted, the soul can become confused about where it belongs." Their fingers brushed the back of my hand, a grounding, gentle touch. If you're not careful, that confusion can leave openings. Corruption looks for openings. My breath hitched. My heartbeat stuttered. No, I don't want to hear this. If I hear it, it's real. If it's real, I could lose all of this. Lose them. So I shook my head, forced a weak smile. leaned into their shoulder as if proximity alone could rebuild certainty. I'm fine. I'm happy. I want to be here. Isn't that enough? They didn't push, didn't argue. They just watched me with the patience of someone who had seen futures bloom and collapse and bloom again. Sometimes happiness reveals what's broken, not because the joy is false, but because it finally gives you enough safety to feel the things you buried. The words hit me like a stone dropped into water, ripples spreading through all the quiet inside me. For days after, my sleep became shallower. Dreams tugged at me like unanswered letters. I'd wake with my pulse racing, mouth dry, chest tight with something I couldn't name. Until one night, I finally sat up, hands trembling, breath uneven. Ares stirred beside me instantly. Soren, I keep feeling incomplete, like something is pulling me backward, like I'm supposed to fix something, or face something, or I don't know. Ares reached for me again, their thumb brushing my cheek, their voice calm even as worry flickered in their eyes. That feeling is not a threat, it's regret. They leaned in, our foreheads touching. Regret isn't an enemy, it's a compass. It tells you where you're still hurting, where you still have something to mend. I'm scared, I know, but you're not alone in it. I closed my eyes, let their words settle into me, let their presence ease the shaking under my ribs. Maybe with them beside me, I really can face whatever this is. Maybe I don't have to lose everything. Maybe I just have to stop running. Outside, the night hummed with quiet magic. Inside, wrapped in each other's warmth, two futures, two timelines held their breath together. Once I finally named the feeling tugging at me, once I admitted to myself and to Ares that something unresolved was calling me home, the world around me shifted. Not sharply, not like a door slamming shut, more like a curtain lifting slowly, revealing a truth I'd always known but never let myself see. I need to go back, to face the version of myself I left behind, to face the people who only knew that version, to prove to myself more than anyone that I don't have to shrink to fit their expectations. The realization didn't come with relief, or certainty, or bravery. It came with grief, with longing, and with a stubborn, unreasonable refusal to say goodbye to Ares, because now I knew it with terrifying clarity. Ares wasn't just someone I cared for. They were the first person I had ever loved without editing myself first. How do I leave the person who taught me what it feels like to take up space? Ares didn't push me, didn't urge me. They just held my hand one night, tracing slow circles with their thumb.
It won't happen overnight, Soren. Growth never does. Courage is a small decision you repeat until it becomes muscle memory.
So I just choose it every day?
Every day. In the way you answer questions. In the way you don't look down when someone frowns. In the way you speak even if your voice shakes.
They brushed a stray lock of hair from my face. And in the way you remember you deserve to be heard. I swallowed hard. Their voice, warm, gentle, steady, sank into me like sunlight sinking into cold soil. And once the truth was out loud, neither of us kept pretending time wasn't running out. From that moment on, we lived inside our borrowed time with a fierceness that felt almost childish, joyous, impulsive, sincere. We crammed life into every hour. Ares dragged me to the scholar markets, where vendors sold enchanted puzzles that rearranged themselves in the air. We learned to make memory ink that glowed brighter the more honest the writer was. We took a 3-day trip to the Circle of Blossoms, where flowers bloomed in response to laughter. We spent afternoons doing the silliest magical activities I'd never imagined. Chasing illusory butterflies that whispered compliments, riding low-hovering platforms that skimmed across meadowgrass, attempting, and absolutely failing, to bake resonance pastries that exploded into tiny fireworks if emotions weren't perfectly balanced. And in quiet pockets of time, we visited the Scholarium's orphanage. Ares taught the children temporal riddles. I taught them earth games. They adored me instantly. I never realized how much I'd starved for this, for being wanted without conditions, for being seen without shrinking. And Ares Ares glow. With me nearby, their study grew neater, calmer, their work steadier, their smile real in a way most of the city had never seen. Together, we felt like a possibility that had been waiting for centuries. Inevitability has a way of circling back. 2 weeks passed quickly. Too quickly. One morning, I walked into Ares's study and found them tracing a timeline projection above their desk, a glowing arch of runes and shifting probability strands, like a constellation trying to decide what shape it wanted to be. They didn't have to say anything. I knew.
The next temporal distortion will open near the forest ridge, the same place you first stepped through. Their voice trembled, just a little, enough for me to feel it like a hairline crack in my chest. So soon.
It's the cleanest path, the highest likelihood of bringing you back to your original moment. They paused, then reached out and cupped my face with both hands, gentle, careful, as if memorizing the shape of me. I'll stay here, studying distortions, watching for signs. I'll find a way back to you, across timelines if I must.
My breath broke. Tears pooled hot and heavy, not from fear this time, but from a love so deep it made my bones ache. I'll come back, no matter how long it takes, no matter who I am when I return. Ares pressed their forehead to mine, their breath mingling with mine like a promise forming between our skin.
Then I'll wait for all your versions.
We packed slowly, together, hands brushing, lingering too long, pretending we weren't memorizing the last touch. The journey back to the forest ridge would begin at dawn, and under the weight of that looming goodbye, something unexpected happened. I felt ready, not unafraid, never that, but ready to face my family, ready to speak honestly, ready to exist in my old world with the heart I'd found here. My spirit no longer felt like a tangled timeline, but a single thread pulled taut, leading forward. I'm going home. But home isn't a place anymore. It's a person, a promise, a future I'm determined to return to. The morning we left the solarium, the air felt thinner, like the world already understood what was about to happen. Ares held my hand the whole way, our fingers woven together with that quiet, steady determination that said, I am with you through the last step too. We stepped into the temporal chamber, runes spiraling upward in perfect symmetry. Ares whispered a command in a language I didn't know, and the world blinked. No caravan, no winding forest path, just a clean, seamless fold in reality, like someone took the world by its corners and smoothed out the space between 2 points. And suddenly, we were standing inside the lakeside forest. It was peaceful, too peaceful. Even here, even now, I don't want to let go. The lake shimmered in the night exactly the way it had the moment I first crossed over, but the feeling wasn't the same. Back then, it felt like the lake reached out and embraced me. Now, it felt like the universe was inhaling, drawing me towards something vast, luminous, and frightening. Ares stepped closer, their voice soft but steady. When it begins, don't fight it. Just let yourself fall into the thread that calls to you. You'll know which one is home. My heart trembled. I forced my breath to stay steady. What if I forget? What if I lose? All of this? Ares cupped my face, their touch grounding me instantly. You won't. Time can bend, but memory doesn't unlove. I'll find you. Across timelines if I must. Our foreheads touched. The night hummed around us, like the world was holding its breath. And then it shifted. A low vibration rippled through the lake. The water pulled inward, as if gravity had suddenly changed its mind. Tendrils of liquid light rose up, curling around me like luminous ribbons. My pulse jumped. I'm a tick in the universe, so small, so fragile. But I'm not afraid, because you exist. Ares held me until the distortion surged. The air cracked open, gold, blue, violet, 1,000 timelines overlapping, echoing, collapsing into one impossible moment. and I saw flashes. A world made entirely of crystal constellations. A city built from moving shadow. A desert where time flowed backward. Lives I might have lived. Lives I might still live. My chest tightened. My vision blurred. My heartbeat thundered fast enough to break. I closed my eyes, just for one breath, and when I opened them, the world had changed.
Cold night air, crickets, the uneven flap of a tent in the wind. Soren gasped, stumbling forward. His camping gear was exactly where he left it. His blanket, his old boots, his water bottle, the power bank blinking faintly. Nothing had moved, not even a twig. He scrambled to his tent. His phone was still plugged in, still dead, until it flickered awake. Same date, same minute, same night. Not a single second had passed. Soren dropped onto the grass, shaking, laughing, crying all at once. "You're real, you're real, you're real." Every touch, every smile, every kiss surged through him like a second heartbeat. He hugged his bag to his chest and began the long walk back to his car. He wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. His parents' house glowed with familiar lamplight. ESPN murmured from the TV. The same old armchair his father refused to replace creaked softly. His mother looked up first. Her face cracked open into relief before she even had words.
"Mom."
He rushed to her, collapsing into her arms. She held him like she had been waiting a decade. His father muted the TV, frowning.
"What's all this? Where were you? Why are you crying? For God's sake, son, toughen up!"
I stood straighter, tears still on my cheeks, but my voice steady. "If I feel like crying, I will cry. That doesn't make me less of a man, and I'm happy to see you, both of you." My father froze, startled by the unfamiliar confidence. I was not defiant nor rebellious, just certain. He grunted and stood abruptly.
"I'm going to bed."
But as he passed, I caught something in his eyes. Something quiet, conflicted, almost gentle. A beginning. My mother cupped my face when we sat again.
"Tell me everything."
And I did. I told her about the circles, the scalarium, the meals, the children, the lake, the feeling of being seen. I told her about Ares, their brilliance, their warmth, their laughter. My mother listened, not frightened, not confused, but proud.
"You found yourself. That's all I ever wanted."
That night, I slept with a peace I'd never known.
Soren changed, not overnight, but with small, deliberate choices. He wrote again, stories of time magic and quiet love. He went out more. Gay bars, drag shows, bookstores, parks, places he once avoided. At work, he laughed openly. He joined people for lunch. He let himself take up space. His father stayed distant at first, awkward, confused, silent. But slowly, he softened. He built new furniture for Soren's room, muttering about him doing his duty. His actions spoke where his words didn't know how to. Soren noticed, and forgave quietly. One afternoon, after a long day at work, Soren dozed off on the couch. The room dimmed, the world narrowed, and a soft voice reached him, warm as starlight.
Soren, soon. I can see the thread. I'm coming to you. Wait for me.
Soren's eyes snapped open. His heart raced. Not him going back, not this time. Ares was coming here. He told both parents. His mother squealed. His father pretended to sigh, but started measuring the hallway as if preparing for a guest. Soren felt hope ignite in him like a new sun. It came on an ordinary gray afternoon. Rain tapping softly. Dinner steaming on the table. His mother humming. His father pretending not to stare at the window every few minutes. Then, a knock. Soft. Too soft to be anything ordinary. Soren froze. His heart answered before his mind could. He stood, walked to the door, hands trembling. When he opened it, the world tilted. There, soaked in rain, eyes luminous with wonder and relief, was Ares. Not a vision, not a dream, not a memory. Ares, in the flesh, breath steaming in earth's air. Their smile trembled.
I told you, I'd find you.
Soren didn't speak, didn't think. He threw himself into their arms, rain and laughter and tears tangling together. His parents watched from the dining room, his mother crying softly, his father rubbing the back of his neck and muttering, "Well, I'll be damned." Time hadn't brought them together. Choice had. Courage had. Love had. And as the door closed behind them, their story, the one written across timelines, began again. The end.
Quote of the week. The moment we choose to love, we begin to move toward freedom. Bell Hooks. Thank you for listening to The Magic That Knew My Name from the Portal Library. Hope you enjoyed this series. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you'd love more stories or have a request. New videos uploaded every Friday.